Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Lizard Brains podcast. I'm your host, DJ Alessandrini. I'm joined by my co-host, Tom McGorman. Tom, how we doing?
Dude, I feel good. I turned on this camera. I saw my tan. I saw my fresh haircut. I'm kind of feeling myself a little bit.
Where did you get a tan?
In Florida. You
Oh,
wanna hear
that's
about
weird.
it?
Yeah, I think I got a same tan in Florida, but we were in different racetracks, surprisingly.
Well, we had different racetracks and also different lighting.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
you got that overhead lighting going
yeah,
on. I got that
I
front
got
lighting.
the it's the brightest, most
Should we
overhead
call
light
it the
ever.
Holiday Inn Express?
This is a Holiday Inn Express. How did you know?
Because the lighting.
Are these hotels
I was
notoriously
like,
bad for lighting?
he's sitting at that desk with that overhead LED light. Oh yeah, I know
Oh,
it.
is this like a Holiday Inn special?
Well, yeah, you walk in every McDonald's, it's the same deal with Holiday Inn Express.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't know that.
How you doing?
I'm tired. You know, I forgot this thing when you start like a new job, you're just like completely exhausted at the end of each day cuz every single moment of that day there's nothing that's the same. And it's just like constant learning the whole time. You're like it's like a constant amount of stumbling through stuff, and then the moment you think you figured something out, nope, you're wrong because of this thing or this other thing. And yeah, it's just it's a lot. It's a lot, Tom. I'm just tired. And I'm feeling a little homesick too.
Yeah, that's that good point. I was going to ask, tell me about going from, okay, you went from job training to racetrack to job training. Tell me what the downgrade was like. Not downgrade, come down. Come down. Well, downgrade, but come down was like.
Well, it was kind of nice that I had like Sunday, which was just me. Well, I went to the racetrack and hung out on Sunday as well, even though I wasn't driving, just because my flight was at like 7 p.m. or whatever. But the flight got delayed like 2 hours, so I didn't land until like 1 a.m. like Central Time. So
Oof.
it was a little
Ooh.
bit brutal. But the good news is everyone in the office seemed really tired on Monday, so I think I snuck by on my tiredness because everyone was dragging them really hard. So I'm like, all right, cool. I'm fitting in right
There you
now
go.
more than I probably should be. Um, but yeah, that it was, honestly, Tom, it was kind of the same because it's a bunch of new stuff that I'm learning for work. And then I went to a brand new racetrack and I learned that. And then I went right back to learning stuff at work. So my brain is tired. Just been constant learning, no breaks. I've been going to sleep like extra early every night, just because I just feel exhausted, and I think that's just my brain trying to like form those like pathways. Uh,
The Porsche didn't have any brakes.
yeah, I mean it had great breaks. Tom O'Gorman, we're on.
You said no. You said I got no brakes. I'm just
Yeah,
going through it. I got no brakes.
yeah, I got
No,
no
no,
brakes.
just kidding.
You don't really need to use the brakes for like too much for like turn one, but everywhere else you kind of need to.
For sure. Okay, so we have to start this thing with a debate because you and I were both in Florida this weekend. You were at Sebring driving a GT3 RS at a Chin track day with Peter Lear, and I was at Miami Homestead with Fields Auto Works driving a couple different cars. And you posted, "I love Florida. This is amazing." And I posted, "I hate Florida. Why does anyone do this?" Explain yourself.
Wait,
Why am I wrong?
how warm was it in Miami?
Dude, the first day it was 80 degrees plus at 9 in the morning with 97% humidity. And it was absolutely miserable.
All right,
Now,
how
be
cold?
honest, by the end of the day, the humidity had gone down. The next day was nice. I get it. But also, what the hell?
I How cold was it in Columbus, where you normally live?
Um, it is currently 16 degrees.
All right. So in Minneapolis, where I'm at, it's
Say it again.
the
Which one?
no, I'm not
Where?
doing that again. I can't say words, Tom. Why do I even have a podcast? I don't even know why you guys listen to this, to be honest, but I'm so grateful for all of you. Minneapolis. There we go. I got it.
Yeah,
That was it.
that's what
Okay.
you said.
Yep, I've always said that. I've literally never said anything different than Minneapolis. So, um, I was trying to take a nap right before this, so my mouth isn't like warmed up. I failed at taking a nap. I started watching YouTube, so that's what happened. But Um, so it's 16 degrees in Columbus, whatever. It's negative 16 here in Minneapolis. And the wind chill says it's like negative 36, 38 degrees. Negative. It is so cold, Tom. So, and it's super dry too, right? So when I got to
Mhm.
Florida and it's 97% humidity and it's warm, it felt like lotion on my skin because like I'm literally I think I'm starting to have like skin issues. Like I'm like extra itchy. Like it's super dry up here. Like super dry.
You gotta do the moisturizer, like, all the time, yeah.
Yeah, I packed that in my bag that was already exploding. It's literally all the little seams in my like little carry-on bag are like holding on for dear life.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Alright, how did we get here? What did I ask you? Oh, we're fighting about Florida. So you like Florida?
it was nice. It was fine. I think if it was that temperature forever, then I think that would be perfectly fine. Um, like the mid 80s, whatever. It was fine. That was completely. I was okay with that. There was a nice breeze coming through. It was good. So I think that's fine. It's a little warm for my taste. I think my ideal weather is like 60 to 50% humidity and like 60 degrees. That's like my ideal. Um,
Yeah.
but I don't know, 85 degrees at Sebring, I'll take it. Could have been worse.
That's true. I'm complaining about something stupid. Alright, so tell me about Sebring then, and then I'll tell you about Homestead Miami.
Yeah, I'm really curious to hear about Homestead Miami. So I put out
My eyes watering.
I put out some feelers to drive Sebring like I don't know, like 2 months ago.
Did you happen
And
to find the Tomo Racing track tips on the ASM YouTube channel? I've heard that's pretty good.
that is pretty good, but I didn't see any Sebring videos,
Actually,
Tom.
I don't think that exists. You're right. It's made up.
But if there was a Tomo track tip video for Sebring, I would have really enjoyed it. You gave me a little blurb right before, so I appreciated that. And you were right about 17 that there's like a smooth way through it, and that is indeed the fastest way. Which is basically what the line would be, anyways. It's like basically what I
Yeah.
drive in iRacing. Um, but yeah, so I put out some feelers and I was expecting to like drive like an S2000 or an FRS or something. I just wanted to drive Sebring because I'm like, I have an opportunity to go down to Sebring. And I just like, I don't have an opportunity to bring a car with me. So I was just hoping to drive something. And then Peter Lear, my One Lap of America, and also the guy who gave me my free race car, he lives in that area. And he was like, well, I'll just bring the GT3 RS. Like, you can drive Sebring in that. And I was like, okay, that's not entirely what I was expecting, but like, awesome. That sounds amazing.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, I'm like, whoa. So, because anytime I get to drive that car, it's like that car is just so incredible. It just drives so good. And so I get to drive this
Yep.
bucket list track in a dream car. Like, I mean, it's honestly it's a little crazy. Like if you would have told me like 4 years ago or whatever, like yeah, you'll be driving a GT3 RS around Sebring, I would have been like, yeah, sure. Um, but yeah, so I got to do something that like is just unequivocally super super cool, and I'm so grateful that I got to do it. My only regrets is I only did it for one day, and I really wish I would have been able to take that like Sunday cool like morning weather and put together like the stuff I learned. I will say my first session was kind of scrappy. I was like a little outside of bandwidth. I could feel like my bandwidth being tested
Yeah.
just because new track and the car's so fast. It was like really it like oh, and then at some point because I shoved my phone in the door. But guys, the bumps at Sebring, they're freaking real. Like holy crap! So normally the phone in the door is completely fine. Phone in the door at Sebring, well now it's just flying around the pedal box. So that was taking up bandwidth too. And one time I went to the brakes and my heel was on my phone and it was slipping around. So I didn't have the brakes like quite how I wanted. So like turn one was like kind of ragged. And Peter's sitting in the passenger seat. He probably thinks I'm like, he's like, this guy forgot how to drive. What the hell's going on? And meanwhile, I'm just like making sure my foot's still on
You're
the
like,
brake.
"I'm sorry, I'm on my phone."
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah. I'm literally on my phone. And so I went into turn three and then the same thing happened. And I'm like, you know what? first session, I'll have some video to review. I'll have like I'll think about the session, think about where I'm leaving time, and then I'll go out for the second session. It'll be completely fine. And that's exactly what I did. So I once my phone was flying around the car, I was just like, I'm going in. So I went in, uh, told Peter like, hey, my phone was in the footwell, so like that's why we came in early. And I I'm not gonna risk the car because my phone's flying around the footwell. Like that would be the guys. That would be the dumbest way to lose a $200,000 car. Like that's. Can you imagine if that's what led to like that car's demise? That would be the dumbest shit ever, right? So
Honestly, I thought it would be the dumbest shit ever if you lost the phone to that reason as well. Like if you were to happen to like snap the phone in half or like crack it with
oh
the either pedal, like who cares? Like pull in, yeah.
yeah, I wouldn't care about the phone, but yes, like yeah. So I was already like feeling kind of bandwidth limited. I think that was due to, even though it was my goal to not have any off season rust. I think I was a little rusty. You know, it was I as much as I hate to admit it, driving a C5 Corvette on snow tires, uh, maybe doesn't knock the rust off for driving a GT3 RS around Sebring. Just saying, might not. I'm sure it helped. But that first session, I felt a little rusty. Second session felt way better. I felt like much more in control of like my bandwidth and everything as I was driving. And I was placing the car and I was dancing it and everything felt way better. And I only got 4 sessions.
Yeah.
And by the last session, I felt like exactly where I left off in November, where I was feeling like super dialed in, where I just felt like 100% comfortable in the car and was just having a great time playing, essentially. Um, and I tried to record video, but all I managed to do was record the back of somebody's head. And then you can kind of see me off into the corner of the video having fun. So that's on my YouTube channel. If you just,
No, I watched it. It was fine.
it was fine.
Yeah, I watched it. It was good. Yeah.
Okay. I lined the camera up and then last second it was, oh, hey, can you take so-and-so? That person that was in the passenger seat, Tom, was never on a racetrack before. That was their first time
What
on a
did they say?
racetrack. They never went for an autocross run, nothing. They're like, I don't know. It was one of Peter's friends. It was like, I don't know, like I'm just I told him, I'm like, you're not a hostage. You're not a prisoner. Like if anytime you want to just get out of this car, you do this hand signal, which is like a I'm out of here hand signal. And he never gave the hand signal, so I knew he was good. So
Yeah.
I didn't work like when Christine's in the car, I work up to it. I like keep going. Out of the pits, it was like basically launch control, like right at the wall, like twisted it on pit exit and like slip angled out. Like he got no like niceties
Yeah.
or anything. It was just a thrill ride. So,
When
but yeah.
I love doing that. Go ahead. Go
Oh
ahead. Go
no,
ahead.
go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say when I was driving specifically one weekend I was driving a Viper ACR and I was giving my friends rides and my brother rides and my parents rides and stuff. And my favorite thing, we were at Mid Ohio, was to come out of the pits and do like 50% throttle, which in a Viper is obviously plenty of power. And most people have never felt that. So I would like kind of half power up to the keyhole, and then I'd come out of the keyhole and I'd go full power. So they got like double the adrenaline
Yeah,
rush of
yeah,
like, oh,
yeah,
I
yeah.
think this is it. Okay, this is kind of normal. Oh, now we're
You're
really
like,
going. I
oh,
love that so much because people have
yeah.
never really experienced that kind of power, that kind of like accelerational G in a car that they're not under control. It's like a roller coaster, but you can't trust that it's doing the right thing
Yeah, so
from the passenger seat. It's amazing.
I could watch the his name was Mike, the passenger. And I could see Mike, like at first it was like a death grip on like the door. He's like, "Oh my god, I'm actually going to die." But then as like you get the repetition and then yeah, exactly. Tom's like looking like sketched in his computer chair. But then you could tell with like the repetition and like just like at some point you get used to it, right? And then at some point I could see like his hand like relaxed on the door and he's kind of just sitting there and you could see him like start to anticipate when I'm hitting the brakes like in the passenger seat, so he's not just like a noodle neck flapping around in the passenger seat and stuff like that. And by the time we came in, I was like, it gets kind of peaceful, right? And he goes, "You call that peaceful?" And I'm like, "Well, like compared to the beginning." He goes, "Okay, yeah, I guess it does." And I'm like, it's so much fun to
Yeah.
like be. I can't imagine like your first time ever in a car at like any kind of like slip angle, for it to be like such an insane car that is at just also such an insane track that Sebring is. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
I can't imagine that being your first time. But I do have takeaways from Sebring and how it relates to iRacing. You're interested, Tom.
Sure.
All right, so turn one, that
Anything
bump.
you got?
Yeah, turn one, that bump. Also, the the way you turn into turn one, I feel like doesn't completely equate in iRacing to how it does in real life. Go ahead.
Well, first, okay, because of that, it's because the wall does not go out in real life and then allow you to turn in. In real life, the wall is parallel to the direction of travel the whole time. And in iRacing, they have the old version where it opens up two car widths and then you can
Mm,
turn in.
okay, maybe that's why it felt
But
different.
overall, before you go further, rank it. We're Sebring. You've driven a
Mm.
lot of racetracks.
Oh man, it's okay. So
State of
it's
Florida drivers are relying on you here.
yeah. So it's below Road Atlanta. It's below NCM. It's below Road America. It's above Mid Ohio.
I
Uh,
agree. Lime
and
Rock,
it's above that. Um,
Pit
I'd
Race.
I'd say Lime Rock's slightly above Mid Ohio. Pit Race is below Mid Ohio.
Okay.
So I
So
think
it's
that's
it's top five-ish almost for you.
yeah, like North American, yeah, for sure. It's like in that realm. It's like fourth on that list from just the immediate tracks I can think of.
Cool. All
That
right,
was
so
pretty
be
good.
on turn one.
So there's like this huge bump in the middle of turn one, and you actually have to incorporate it into what your angle is at apex because you're gonna lose like a half a car width to a car width on exit because you run over this bump. Now, there were some people telling me that, well, if you just go wider, you like don't hit the bump. But if I go wider, then I just went slower so I don't hit the bump. Like that's
Yeah.
I like played with it in my head. I never tried it in real life. But I'm like, that's the optimal angle at apex where I can be on throttle. And if I lose a half a car width on exit, that would be better than like intentionally taking this wrong line to avoid the bump. So every single time through turn one, the car got air, which was like kind of wild to do. And I would lose that half a car width on exit, but it would happen predictably enough where I understood the angle I should have at apex. And if I couldn't get to that angle, I would know that I would have to delay throttle a little bit or I would run out of racetrack, right? Um,
Right.
turn 3 through 5 drives exactly like it does in iRacing, just like you said it would.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Really?
Yeah. Did
Did
you
you not
not?
notice the difference in concrete to asphalt?
Yeah, I did, but it's also feels slick in iRacing. So I
I don't know that I agree with that, but
so
I as long as you felt it in real life, I'm okay.
so
If you were like, "Oh, what?" I was
I
gonna be like, "Alt everything."
So the one spot I'll get to the spot where the concrete like was kind of messing me up a little bit, where iRacing really doesn't like factor that in. But yeah, turn 3 through 5 was the same, and then you go down to the hairpin, which is turn 7. That was basically the same, except
Mhm.
there's like a whoop on the very left of the track. So like if you're braking like on the edge of the racetrack, there's like a it like crest and then dips. So and then the ABS will like spike in the car and you'll lose like a quarter of a car length that you could have broke otherwise. So and I noticed this. There was a bunch of IMSA people there that weekend. Maybe
Yeah.
even Penske was there. I was trying to win the track day. I don't know how it went. I've kept my phone ringer on, but Roger Penske hasn't called me yet. So what were
Well,
you gonna say?
sometimes he takes a couple days, but
Oh,
also,
okay.
there was an official IMSA test for the days before, so I'm not surprised that some teams might have either stayed or, like, piggybacked off of.
There was a bunch of Porsche Cup cars there, Tom. Oh my God, do I want to drive a Porsche Cup car so bad? Some of them were like 10 seconds off pace, but some of them were like really on pace. Like when I'm passing a Porsche Cup car in a 991 GT3 on street tires, like those guys are doing something real wrong. Like those cars should be so
Yeah.
much faster than a street car.
OSB.
Yeah, it's like
OS.
yeah, they were like looking way over bandwidth, and I'm just like harassing them in the street car. I felt like a little bit of a boss. But then every once in a while, somebody that could actually drive one of those things uh, would would be behind me, and then I would watch the way they were, dancing the car through everything. And I'm like, okay, like that's an actual pro. All these other people are just writing really nice checks.
Yep.
Yeah, you could tell the difference like 100%. Like it was 100% difference. um, So I noticed one of the better driven GT3 Cup cars. It would go kind of like mid track and then brake toward turn in, like so back to the left side of the track before the apex. And I tried that and it skipped that like little whoop. And it allowed me
Yep.
to brake like that quarter of a car, half a car later. And then because you brake a little bit later, it doesn't really affect the turn in. It's gonna be faster, right? So I started like messing with that around a little bit. If there was somebody behind me, I didn't want to sketch them out, so I would just kind of brake like in the on the left. I didn't. There was a Praga behind me at one point, and he locked his brakes, and I like lifted off the brakes to give him extra room, and he went like spinning like outside of seven, and I was like, that would be the dumbest way for this car to get damaged is for somebody in like some for me to get like dentist by like some like prototype driver that's like in over their head.
Dentisted.
Right. So, like, anytime somebody was behind me, I was just like, I'm gonna be the most predictable. Like, I'm over here. I'll give you the inside if you really mess it up. Like, by me, like, breaking like diagonal across the track, I thought it might like create some weird dentist scenario where they like completely like butcher up the corner and then they think they have nowhere to go and then just hit me for no reason, right?
Right.
So, if somebody was behind me, I didn't do that. But anytime somebody wasn't behind me, I'd break like diagonal into the thing, and it was actually better. So that was cool, like that I figured that out. Turn the
So I
exit.
noticed a lot of deep. I've noticed for years deep prototypes do that, but I've never noticed like sort of production GT style cars do that. That's a good thing to know.
Uh, yeah, the
Meaning it's good to know that it's important because I had been even when the TCR car I was not honoring that bump. Maybe I left something on the table.
but so there was another car there that had a bunch of aero that was kind of in like Peter's gang, and uh they didn't really notice a difference just driving over that. So maybe if you had any kind of aero, you didn't notice that much of a difference because the crest wasn't like because you had some downforce to like help you out a little bit. But you still think it would be like affected even with the arrow. You just probably it'd probably just be harder to notice, right? So
Yeah.
and I don't know, do American GT3 Cup cars do they have ABS?
The US ones are allowed to, so I'm assuming the ones that you saw did.
Okay, all right. Because I was thinking if you didn't have ABS, that like maximizing the brakes over that little whoop would be really tough. So that's I could see that's why the prototypes are
For
breaking
sure.
offline. Um,
For sure.
but so turn seven, basically almost like iRacing, except the exit uh, is like you can't drive through the dirt because that was literally a crater. Oh my god, that was the deepest hole I've ever seen on a racetrack. But you're like flirting with it each
Oh yeah.
time, right? Um, but it looked like it literally looked like somebody went over there with a shovel and went, you know what? Screw all these cars. That's what it looked like.
They did. It's just their splitter.
Yeah. Oh, okay, okay. It was like it was pretty deep. And then um turn turn 10. So the next it's like a right, left, right. That came up. That felt very much like iRacing where you like kind of turn into it early. The thing that was different with
Yep.
iRacing is normally you kind of like let the car run out to that curb and then you kind of just drop off the end of the curb. I didn't see that being practical in real life. I never tried it, but it just didn't seem like it was actually going to work. It seemed like that was some
Right.
video gamey stuff that wasn't gonna function correctly. The part where the concrete was catching me out was tower. What is that? Turn 13. Um,
Yep.
because the you're on the entry of the corner, right as you're turning in, it's asphalt, but then at some point it goes concrete. And every single time I went concrete until like literally the last session that I had in the car, it felt like I was under dry. Like I would get to the concrete and then get on power and I'd get to exit and be like, ah, crap. I was on the brakes too early or I like didn't turn in early enough or something. Like there was like something I needed to adjust for that corner. And every time it was because that concrete would like grip the car up. So and the tricky part was, so I think this is why I didn't notice it on like turn 3 through 5 is because when I turned in, it was the same as the rest of that section. But tower turn 13 was catching me out because when I turned in, it was asphalt, and then a split second later, it switched to concrete. So I think there's something in my brain that like that initial turn in tells me like what to expect for that corner. So then when it changed like
Sure.
halfway through the corner, it like kept catching me out. It took me a few far too many times through tower for me to be like oh yeah I did a great job there to finally like get it correct. And part of that is on the edge of the exit curbing there. It was another ditch, like it like dropped off a lot. So if I dropped like the
Sure.
left side of the car off there, I'm pretty sure I would have damaged like the under tray and stuff. So there was a little bit of caution through that section. And then also anytime I was on that curb, iRacing, that curb's never anything. But I'd be on that curb, and you know how like sometimes when you're on a curb and you're like turning, but it's like the curb's like almost kind of pulling you off the racetrack.
Yes.
That curb had that resonance to it, and it has this like tiny little concrete patch like right at the end of the curb, and then that's where I would be able to finally get off the curb. So I'd actually be on the curb with the wheel turned to the right, and I was still like going straight. And then I would get to that little concrete patch at the end of it, and then I would get back on the racetrack.
You know, I've always wondered if that's because the car is slightly in the air or if that's because the curb is painted, which for Sebring, those curbs are so smooth. I assume it's because it's painted or maybe not like fully matched on elevation, you know, if it might be like a little bit downgraded, but either way, like being able to understand what the car is going to do as you enter the curb before you enter the curb is such a superpower on a racetrack.
Yeah.
If you know like, oh, the car's going to go straight or oh, the car's going to like float a little bit away from where I think I'm going to go.
I think it's the ripples in the curb. It creates extra drag on the left side of the car, so it's kind of pulling the car that way.
Yeah, maybe.
But then you get to the
Yeah,
concrete
I always
patch.
assumed that was the like being in the air, like as the tire resonates, it's kind of in the air, so the car is like accelerating harder on the right and
Oh, that
pushing
could
it
be it
left.
too.
But
Yeah, I didn't think about that. Like the left rear
it could be
tire.
a combo. Who knows?
Yeah, no, I'm sure it's a mix of both of those. Yeah, but I didn't think about that as well. Um, and then so the next like double left-hander turn coming up, I have literally never thought about that corner ever in my life in iRacing. I'm just like, yeah, that's the thing that you have to turn around before you get to turn 14, 15, and 16. It was an actual corner in the streetcar Porsche. So I would short shift to
Really?
fifth. I would short shift the fifth,
Okay.
get the nose in, and then I could like set the right rear, and then you were kind of just like at slip angle like through that whole thing until like you got into the brakes. But it was like an actual
Cool.
corner before like anywhere else, and it felt cool because you're going, I don't know, you're going like 120 to by the time I hit the brakes I was going like 131 into turn 14. And so you're kind of like, if I kept it in fourth I would have to shift mid mid slip angle into fifth, and then but I also had to still do a lift to get the nose in, or I just wouldn't get the angle right.
Yeah.
I bet with like a huck of the wheel, maybe I could have done it flat, uh, but I wasn't gonna huck the wheel in an unfamiliar track at 115 miles an hour or whatever. So that maybe someday I'll have that like level of confidence, um,
You will.
but then 14, 15, 16, that was my favorite part. That was my favorite part of the track.
Yeah.
In iRacing, that's a nothing thing, but in real life, that was such a great spot of the track. I would always like have the car a little bit more playful than other spots, just in that spot because it was so much fun.
Yeah. If you're familiar with Sebring but not following corner numbers, that's the final right, left, right onto the back straight before the final corner. And it is so fun because it's like rhythmic and the car is just like you're on concrete, so the grip is good.
Hmm.
And I don't know. Yeah, tell me, go.
Yeah, you would turn in a little extra earlier than you thought. You'd run almost all the way out to the curbing, and then you were just riding that right rear, making space for the last right hander before the straight. And then maybe the rears were like kind of hot at this point, but like the nose was super pointy turning into 16. And then so you're just like guiding the nose down to the corner, and you're like feeding in throttle, and then you're just riding those rear tires to like that last inch of racetrack over like this super wide curbing on the outside. It just felt
Yep.
it felt like super rewarding, and it just felt like you were like getting it. It felt super good. You know what corner was really awkward? Turn 17.
Let me
My
guess. Let me
God.
guess. Oh, go ahead. I guess turn 17. Was that one awkward?
Yeah, dude, it was so awkward. There was like
Isn't it? It's so much slower than you think, but the entry is faster than you think, and the apex is later than you think, and then the exit is different than you think. Am I right?
yeah, well, the exit was about what I thought because you need to be like perpendicular to that bridge when you start to feed in power, right? Um, the entry was so tough. Because I was like, I at first I broke too much, and then I broke like not enough. So then I'm like way wide, and that wall, that outside wall, is way closer than you actually think it is. In iRacing, you never think about
For
it,
sure.
and then in real life, because they put another wall there for so if somebody has a really big off there, um, it's so like you don't die, right? um,
Yeah.
but so the other time I like came in too hot and I was just like way outside. I was like in the marbles. I'm like, oh, this is embarrassing being out here. And so I was trying to dial in like, okay, so I'm gonna brake a little bit lighter, get the car around that first apex, finish up the braking, and then start bleeding off the brakes to like get my angle on the bridge, right? That was like my game plan. That's normally what you would do in iRacing. You know what I ended up figuring out was literally the best? And it was all the car. It was 100% the car, like 60, 70% braking, and then I just turn the wheel and the ABS just does everything. It felt like I was
Yeah.
cheating. That was the
And
fastest
then
way
it's just
through
like a
it.
tight single apex at the end of the bridge, right?
Yeah, that was the fastest way through it. I was making it harder than it needed to be. I just had to rely on German ABS and I was in the golden land. Dude, I'm telling you, it was so silly. I like found it on accident.
Wie wild, stop the car.
I was being lazy and I was like, actually, and I look like over at the Garmin. I'm like, that was the fastest. Are you kidding me? So,
Yep.
yep. But yeah,
I'm telling you, that's the kind of wild stuff that happens in iRacing. I'm just like, it's not realistic. But
but you know where
I have to
iRacing
like
does transfer is that the
where?
experimentation and the playing around with stuff and not doing it the same way
Yeah,
because
yeah.
like, oh, that worked or whatever. Like that's the part that transfers over. So if you're iRacing and I'm sure there's a lot of people listening to this that have been doing a bunch of iRacing this winter. The thing that you should take in the real world is the experimentation, the trying stuff, the oh maybe I'll switch it up like this, and then being open to doing a corner a different way. Just don't get stuck on like, well, that was like almost optimal. Like I guess I'll just do it like that forever from now on. Like play with it, optimize it, like muck it up a little bit, and kind of see what sticks and what doesn't, and then when the time comes for you to put a lap together then take the best of everything you know so far and put all that together, and then that will be your lap.
Yep. Yeah, Sebring's interesting because it has no elevation, which creates this sort of opportunity that there are more lines than a lot of tracks have in the choices you make or maybe the way you salvage mistakes. But I still think it's the best rhythm that any flat track has. And also, sorry for the 20-minute synopsis of Sebring if you've never been, but this is hopefully a good sale to go because it is genuinely, it's for sure the best track in Florida.
Definitely.
And it's excellent. It's top 10 for me.
I
And I've
would
been to
I would love to do a
exponentially more than
race.
DJ. So when he says top 5, yeah.
Yeah, I would love to do a race at Sebring because I feel like that's where it would really shine. Is like doing some laps there
It's
is
so
pretty
good
good.
because, like, those line choices happen, and also, like, the difference in pavement to me creates mistakes from drivers that is not necessarily there in every other track. It races amazing, yeah.
Yeah,
Sebring's it sounds silly to call it a hidden gem, but I feel like it's not on a lot of people's bucket lists, and it should be. It's very, very good.
it should be. Yeah, it was up there. I was cheesing pretty hard every single time I got out of the car. So yeah.
That's amazing.
But yeah, I'm
Well,
super grateful that I even got to do it. I don't know if I'll ever get to drive Sebring again, but I'm glad I get to cross it off the list and go like, you know what? I'm really glad I got to experience it. When I pulled into the racetrack, Tom, I got that same feeling that I got when I went to Road Atlanta, Road America, Mid Ohio, all these tracks that I like never saw in real life, but I've done like thousands of laps in like a video game or like sim racing. Like
yeah.
when you first pull in, you're like, oh, that's turn 17. Oh, that's the bridge. This is the bridge that you're perpendicular in. And then you're like, oh, and then that's the back straight. And here's the front straight. And then like you hear some car like off in a distance and you're like, I don't even see him, but he's probably going through 14, 15, and 16, judging by like his throttle. And then you're like you're putting everything like into like spatial recognition of like where things are. And it's just like the coolest. It's so cool. Like that
Yep.
like rapid information like dump.
I love that first visit to a racetrack understanding of where everything actually is. And my version of that would be like the first time I went to VIR was pretty late in my driving. And when I realized that the midpoint of turn 1 points at the uphill S's,
I had the same
I don't know
realization.
what, like,
Yeah,
I
same thing for
literally
me.
didn't think of that. And as I was looking through turn 1, I'm like, "Oh, we're just literally going straight ahead, but like a little over there first. Oh." You know, like,
Yeah.
it doesn't change the way you drive it, it doesn't change anything about it, but it changes the way I see the track now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it doesn't change the way you
But I
drive
love
it,
going to a new track.
but like just being there in the real place, like you're just I don't know, it's like it feels like it's like kind of like a meet your hero moment kind of thing and the
Mhm.
hero doesn't let you down.
Correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
great
Li-
way to say that, yeah.
Yeah, literally any
Well,
track that I've done in iRacing or like Forza or anything that I went to in real life, it's the same like giddy, oh my god, I can't believe I'm actually here like moment. It's always so cool.
yeah. I think we put those kind of tracks on pedestals for sure. Like, we can't help it. It's just it's a mythical place that becomes real because it is a real place, but we don't think of it that way right away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Unfortunately, Homestead Miami is maybe not that, but it's
I
not
don't
bad.
I don't even know the layout of it, Tom. So that's where Tom was this weekend. And Tom was sending
Yep.
the most wild pictures. I saw like so many priceless cars. I don't know what track day you were at, Tom. Where were you? And why was it at Homestead Miami when Sebring's so close?
So I was at Brian Redmond's Targa 66, which from I think they said it's the 34th one. Do you know who Brian Redmond is? I'm assuming no.
Mm-mm.
That's fine. He's definitely a sports car hero. I know he raced in Formula 1. I don't know to what extent, but he's one of these guys that's been around. He's kind of close to maybe a Jackie Stewart or a um David Hobbs, or like one of these guys who's been around since like the 50s and 60s, and they've driven everything, and they've been at the forefront of stuff. So anyway, Brian Redmond apparently has been putting this event on, and it's all vintage. It's mostly vintage cars, and it's sort of an invitational like track day where you can bring out these cars, and there's like a fast, medium, and slow group, and there's nothing like special going on other than that there's all of these incredible cars coming. So I mean, dude, I saw everything from like 70s, 80s, 90s. I think there was a 50s F1 car there as well that sounded incredible. There was like an E46 GTR. There were both of the not E, GTE BMW M8s there with like a customer program. There was a Porsche 935 that was like the original car from the Whittington brothers, who were like the guys that flew in weed from South America onto the back straight of Road Atlanta. There was a McLaren F1 that got driven there from like North Florida from some car collection. There was literally like all this wild stuff, and an Audi R8 that won Le Mans.
Were they all driving on track?
I saw most of them on track. There were
That's
definitely a couple that didn't go on track,
okay, but that's
which
still
I was
super cool.
disappointed about.
Did that one
Yeah, but
Testarossa that you sent a picture of go on track?
he did for pace laps, so I may or may not have snuck inside of a Testarossa, like a Ferrari 250 Testarossa, and I
Allegedly.
think it was a allegedly when it was dark out and no one could see me. I don't think that was real, but the 250 GTOs that were side by side next to it,
Hmm.
the street car was an original one with a little bit of chassis work done, and then the race car one was an original chassis with the body work done,
Whoa.
like fixed. So there, I mean, and dude, okay, the level of money at this event, there were two descriptions. First of all, these people literally just leave these cars sitting there at night.
They're priceless.
Like these are hundreds of thousands, millions maybe of dollars worth of cars
Well,
just sitting there.
Those GTOs are what are they like 250 million? Like
A
they're
real
wild
original
money.
GTO, I think, is one of the I think like 50 million, but yeah, it's a
Okay.
lot.
Somebody look it up, please.
In hindsight, when I snuck into one of them and not knowing if it was real or anything, like I opened it was a convertible one, so like I didn't have to do much, but I just kind of like sat in it. I was like, "Oh my God." Anyway, that was wild. And then second of all, the amount of wealth I would describe at this event was I have multiple Ferraris at this event. I carry my parrot around on my shoulder between sessions, and I pick which Ferrari I want to drive. Like there was a man walking around with a parrot on his shoulder between his sessions driving these
I
Ferraris.
feel
It
like
was wild.
I feel like that's what Tom's aiming for with his life. Yeah, Tom, you give
No,
off some parrot energy, let's be honest.
I'm that eccentric. Yeah.
Like, you know what would be fun? I learned that there's these birds. Oh, I'm gonna mess them up. They're like African somethings. I forget what somebody in the chat's gonna be able to name it. But they're a bird and they can like perfectly replicate sounds. They're like the mocking jays from like Hunger Games, but they like actually exist. And I thought it would be fun if you had one of those as like a bird on your parrot, but you made it watch like Sonic the Hedgehog like endlessly. You know, when he goes, "You're too slow." I would love that as like a track bird. That would be my favorite track bird. I had a
That's
whole
such a journey. Does Sonic the Hedgehog say that?
yeah, he goes, "You're too slow." I was gonna try to put it on the soundboard, but I ran out of time.
That's all right. Okay, so that's the context. We're in this event. There's probably honestly, dude, there's less than 60 cars there. But they're literally like every single one of them is a car like that. And then we were there with Fields Auto Works, who makes the Cardinal, that you've probably seen at a lot of like track days or grid lifes or different events. That one's based on an Alfa Romeo 2 TZ2, which is like a 60s Alfa Romeo GT car, visually. And then I was there to test drive the new Scioto Coupe, which is kind of a amalgamation of like a 4GT Porsche 908 Ferrari 330 sort of thing. It's like a mid-engine supercar, vintage styling, but modern performance. Anyway, so we had this run plan that was like, to give you
It
context.
was super in depth.
Yeah, the run plan was super in depth, but the car had never been on, at speed with all of the body work before they brought it there. And the reason for bringing it down there was they already had some customers going with the Cardinals. They had 3 of them there. So it was kind of like a no loss, bring it down to Florida and run it. Well, I go out for the first session and the first run plan was 80 miles an hour maximum. The engine was, excuse me, the engine was tuned to 40% throttle maximum. So even if I went full throttle, it was 40%. And the whole goal was like make sure the bodywork is solid, observe any sort of issues immediate with the car, uh driving or otherwise, and just like a super basic shakedown. And I was supposed to do 4 laps out, 2 and around, and then back in. Well, by the end of the second lap, the car was getting pretty hot. It was getting like 220. And then by the end of the third lap, or middle of the third lap, it was like I need to pit, it's too hot. um and that was 40% throttle at 80 miles an hour. So it was definitely like a packaging thing, which is not uncommon for this kind of thing. Anyway, I come in, they look at it. It had blown some sort of radiator gasket or radiator fitting or something. So it was spitting out all the water. So we go back in and they're checking it over, and they cut some new holes in all the custom fiber bodywork. So they're just like hacking the thing up
Yeah,
to make it
yeah.
breathe better, because this is like a test mule car. So we go back out for the next session, and it was the weirdest set of events I've ever had in a car. I'm sitting at pit out. When you're sitting at pit out on a track day and then they release you onto pit lane, not pit out. I was sitting on the paddock waiting to get onto the pit lane for my session. They line everybody up there,
Yep.
whatever track you're
Yeah,
at.
so you can just drive straight on track like from you're
Yep.
not
It's like I'm sitting
cuz
at pit.
cuz cars are
Go
coming
ahead.
off the racetrack, so they use the pit lane and then they stack everyone up just off of the pit lane and then you drive right on track.
Yep. So I'm rolling through that little section and he stops me to check my wristband. No problem. I let the clutch out. All of a sudden, the car is like clunk, 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 like I'm stalling it. And I thought it was my fault. So I like put the clutch in. I'm on like no throttle, and the RPMs drop to like nothing. And then I see and hear some like water reservoir behind me in my rearview mirror explode, and it's like spewing steam everywhere. But I don't know if it's steam or oil or
and,
fuel or
and
water or whatever.
you're going, "What is happening?"
This is in like 4/10 of a second between the two, and then within another second, the radiator, um the dash goes no oil pressure, and I shut the car off. And I shut the car off within 2 seconds of the first problem. But all of those things happened, and then the car was like locked up on the pit entry.
Oh
So
my
they had to like
goodness.
roll me out of the way. They pull the car back, and whatever data, there was a guy from Motec there and all this stuff. Um, all that to say, they determined there was some sort of oiling issue, maybe oil pump, maybe something, maybe something. They sort of called it conservatively and just said, we're just gonna like fix this when we get back. So I ultimately did, 1 out, 1 time by, 1 time in that car. And then I also got to do 1 out, 1 full lap flat out, and then 1 in a Cardinal. Um, and my synopsis, honestly, it kind of sucked because it only sucked. The weekend was fine, but it only sucked because there's 2 turns at Homestead. Do you know this track at all?
No, not at all.
Okay, so it doesn't use the NASCAR banking at all. It only
Really?
dives into the infield at turn 1 and off the back straight at turn 10. And both of those corners are these like really, really shallow, but really fast, like left-hand kinks. And one of them is pretty like low banking onto flat ground. And then the other one is like pretty heavy banking, maybe like over 10 degrees onto flat ground in the infield. And both of those corners struck me as like the most fun sections of the track because they're high speed and they're coming off into like these trail breaking multi-angle sort of like sequences
Yeah.
of like changing direction and weight of the car. And because I literally only did the one hot lap in the Cardinal towards the end of the weekend, I never came close to maximizing those two corners, like even a little.
Yeah.
And the rest of the track is basically like 50-mile-an-hour hairpins, so it kind of sucks. It didn't enamor me. But those two corners, I could see if I like had those corners figured out, I'd be like, "Oh, this track's amazing." Like I would be completely fine with the other corners. Um, but yeah, that was kind of my weekend. I posted pictures of the car in the chat. It looks amazing. It drove, to be honest, guys, I drove the Cardinal 6 years ago when it was the first time on track, and it was not very good. And now what the Cardinal is very good. I would like drive that car in a time attack, no problem. Um,
I noticed
this car felt
these are
like what
pictures from
current Cardinals
Rob.
feel like.
These are pictures from
Yeah,
Rob.
Rob Wilkinson took these. And like the car felt really good. Like the car felt super solid. The brakes felt great. The steering felt great. Like everything felt really solid. It just couldn't stay cool.
Okay, well that's a
Oh,
solvable issue, so
really?
that would be good. So,
Are you
oh
there?
yeah, can you not hear me? Because that's about to be a
Are
disaster.
you
I don't know
back?
what to do. What do you mean in my back? I can hear. Guys, can
No,
you
you're
hear me?
fine. I can hear
Okay.
you now.
All right, you're making me panic a little bit because normally on the podcast machine I would have all these tools to fix it, but I don't have tools to fix this one, Tom. So, uh, um. Anyways, uh, you're telling me the car is going to be ready for 2026 one lap?
Maybe.
Okay.
I'm telling you, it doesn't take 6 years to make this car great. The other car, the very first one they built, that one took 2-3 years to get good, and now it's great. I love driving it. This one's not going to take that long. It's going to be really, really fucking really fast.
Oh, it's gonna be super
By the way,
fast.
the specs are full power, 700 horsepower, 1,800 pounds without a driver, full fuel.
Oh my goodness.
Sequential, LS7, like it's going to be amazing. It already felt great, but as long
It,
as they keep the engine cool, it'll be amazing.
is it legal for one lap? What are the
Yeah, I mean,
rules?
it's street legal and all that.
Okay. All right.
Dude, there is no space inside of it.
That's fine. We'll get a trailer. We'll figure it
Oh,
out.
the other thing that happened this weekend,
What?
I can't believe I didn't lead this. I got to lean forward. The other thing
Okay.
that happened this weekend, DJ,
Hmm.
I was accused of being a car guy.
When did that happen? I don't even have a Carlton button. Carlton's on vacation right now. He's at some unknown car show that I'm sure he'll tell us all
Yeah.
about when he comes back.
It was shocking. I was talking to this guy. I didn't know I had not talked to him for very long. We were chatting it up, whatever. And there was the Audi R8 that won Le Mans a bunch of times from like 2000 to 2005 was sitting like off yonder that way. We could see it off in the distance. And he's like, man, I'd love to drive that. That'd be so cool to drive something like that once and just like feel what that kind of performance feels like. I was like, yeah, that'd be so cool. Like, I can't even imagine what sitting in that car would feel like and just how competent it is. But in the foreground from that car, there was also a C3 Corvette from like old SCCA club racing, like a
Yeah.
B production car. And I was like, but I don't know. I'd have a hard time picking between, that Audi R8 prototype and this Corvette. And he's like, oh, so you're a car guy. And I was like,
Oh no. What? You know what? I think that guy had you pegged, Tom. He totally knows that you're a car guy. Remember, Tom, remember when we both did an autocross event at Chicago and this like
yeah.
Lotus had its tiny little car hood up. It was like the most comical hood up ever. And we were both like sitting in this FRS and we're like, dang, we're both being like, I'm feeling like a moth and that's a light. I really want to see what's under that hood, but we refused to get out of the FRS because we didn't want to be accused to be car guys to go look under that little
Guys, when we're
tiny
talking
Lotus
about
hood.
this little hatch, yeah, when we're talking about this hatch, we're talking like picture a jet ski hatch where you keep your stuff to stay dry. It was smaller than that. And we're like, what is in there?
What are you? Yeah, what even was that? But it was like on the front of the car, right? I mean,
Yeah.
obviously the engine's in the back, but it had this like tiny little hatch that was up in the front. Because like normally at a national event, like when you're done competing, you pop like the trunk and the hood, and because everything's self-regulated by the people that are competing. So you like make the car fully accessible for anybody to, go over there and look at it and make sure that it's legal, right? And so that's what they did. But this like tiny little like escape hatch like out of the front like it's just like popped open. It's like, yeah, are you trying to find a picture of it, Tom? That would be really impressed if you find a picture of it. But it's like it's a comical hood, but we were both feeling like, man, I really want to look under that hood right there. So, well,
The reason I brought all that up is what would you pick? Would you
me,
pick the 2000 Audi R8 or would you pick the 1971 Corvette
I think it's easy for me.
C3?
I would pick the R8. You're talking like that prototype, like the open cockpit prototype where it's like it looks like it has two seats, but realistically only has one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would pick that thing. Are you kidding me? Over a C3 Corvette? It's not even close.
Really?
Yeah, I wouldn't even
I
think
guess
about
like I
the.
still can't pick. I don't know. All right, there's an Audi R8. I'm just posting little pictures.
Yep, absolutely that thing. Are you kidding me? Absolutely that thing. It would be bonkers. I would want like a half hour in it to like come up to speed.
Oh
Yeah.
shit. Oh, sorry, not that.
Okay. Tom's posting pictures right now.
Or
This is riveting audio
yeah,
content.
sorry. I know it's sorry. Just picture like a
I mean,
C3
okay,
Corvette race car.
it's pretty cool. The C3 Corvette looks pretty cool.
If you could only pick one, listeners, you can chime in as well. If you could only pick one, would you pick a mid 2000s Audi LMP car? You're at David Hobbs, not David Hobbs. You're at Brian Redmond's Targa 66. You're at Homestead Miami. You can walk down the garage and you can only pick between the Audi R8 LMP car or the C3 Corvette B production car
I think I
from 1969.
I think if I knew the
I don't know what
track,
I'd do.
maybe I don't know the track enough. Maybe like it would be kind of like a bummer in the LMP car because it's like, well, you never really get to. But like I'm imagining both of those cars at Sebring, and I would take the LMP car. What if both of them were at Sebring, Tom?
I really don't.
You
I'm
don't
like more
know?
intrigued by the Corvette. I'm more intrigued by the Corvette, to be completely honest.
Okay, I. This is where me and Tom are different because Tom wants to drive cars that probably aren't that great, and I want to drive like the best cars ever.
Yeah, I want to drive cars that peaked 50 years ago.
Yeah, that's what this is some major parrot energy I'm getting right now.
No, it's bald eagle energy.
Are you gonna have a bald eagle on your
Yeah.
on your
Yeah, sure.
shoulder? Yeah,
Why not?
that thing would tear you up, Tom. You wouldn't even stand a chance. I think I think somebody just hit the wall. Maybe I'm being too loud recording the podcast. Whatever. They'll have to deal with it for another
Yeah.
half hour.
Well, that was my weekend. I guess that was the majority of it. I ended up coming home a little bit early because the car failed the first day, and I was supposed to be there for 3 days total. So I got home the second night instead of the third night, which was fine.
How does changing a flight work? Can you just swap them around?
Well, it was Southwest, so it was free changes, but most of them
Oh.
after COVID, most airports or air lines went to free changes.
Oh, because I tried to change to an earlier flight because I didn't realize I booked one so late on Sunday. And then that flight ended
Mm.
up getting delayed for 2 hours. So I was just stuck at an airport forever. Like forever. So
At least you didn't post anything crazy on Facebook.
Tom, I think your post changing the world for the better.
No, it's fine. So there was something else we were going to talk about from this weekend.
Was there?
I don't remember. Maybe not. Do you want to answer a question real quick?
Yeah,
I
let's
mean,
answer.
we didn't really
Yeah,
have a
let's
topic
answer
this week,
some.
guys. We had
Well, we were going to talk about the Habit book, but I was wrong about thinking like the first two chapters were going to be like the good ones. Right now,
yeah.
the part that I'm in the book is talking about like the habits that like a swimming coach put into Michael Phelps that like led to him being like one of the all-time greatest swimmers. And I'm like, okay, I'm like taking notes. I'm like, this should be this some of this will probably be relevant to the listeners. So I pushed it off and I'm gonna try to finish that book before we record it next week.
Yes. So next week's episode will be a book review, Lizard Brain's book club. It's called The Power of Habit.
The Power of Habit, yeah.
If you're interested in it, there are links to it on our Discord. You can join the Discord through the link in the description. And yeah, this is our third book review, third media review.
Yeah, media. I don't. There was only the Art of Racing in the Rain book. I don't think I made you read another book since then.
No, we did Soul, the movie,
Yeah,
and
the
then we
movie.
roasted Gran Turismo, but that's not a review.
That wasn't a review. That was a
No.
roast. That was a roast. Okay, should I
Yep.
figure out which button it is? I think it's this button. Emails. All right. You ready, Tom?
Beautifully said. Yeah, this one's actually from actually we have two fun ones. We can maybe wrap this up on this. The first one is from our friend Ross, and it says, "Is sentimental value considered in reasonably high regard to your decision to keep a car that you used for competition, or have you seen your competition cars solely as tools for racing since day one? My Fit met a barrier for the second time recently on track, and while it's fixable, there's enough wrong with the chassis that I'm considering buying an identical used car and migrating parts. On the other hand, I'm worried that I do all that work and ultimately be dissatisfied that my daily and my competition car for the past 5 years were junked for fixable damage just to save me about $2,000 to $4,000. The car's had some good results in Sunday Cup. It's in good shape mechanically. I'm not sure if you or anyone in this Discord have certain regrets over getting rid of cars that served you or very well from a competitive or a daily driver standpoint when they could have been saved. Of particular note, I'd be curious to know how easy the decision was to sell Claptrap after the time Tom O'Gorman had it in B spec. Hey, that's me.
I'm curious. I
What do you think
so
about the sentimental value of cars?
I don't hold any sentimental value towards cars, basically.
I basically don't either. It's like the tool. But the cars that have gotten me far, Trainer 3, the S2000 in GLTC, the TCR Civic, the TCA Civic, and that Fit, both of those Fits, I wish I could have them. Like I get the car collection thing. I wish I could have those cars because they do mean something to me.
I maybe if I
That
was
makes
in a
sense?
yeah, maybe if I was in a different position financially where like having the cars that were part of my journey, I like could
Yeah.
have those as like it would be cool to still be able to take the S2000 out for drives and stuff because that was my street car. It's like the car I started autocrossing in, right? That might be pretty cool, but I'm not sad that I sold it because I sold it to continue on my journey, right? And then I got my Miata, the ND Miata, and I sold that to continue on. And then I had the race car, and I still have it, but it's like not really in. It's not going to be a race car for me. Um, that maybe it will be a race car for somebody else in the future whenever I get around to making the for sale ad. But I don't know. Like maybe if there's a chance that I'm sentimental about a car, it's that car just because of how many doors it opened up. But that at the end of the day, it was just a tool and it's a car and there's so many others like it. That just happened to be the one that I was racing, but I don't know. I'm not I don't think I'm sentimental to like the mechanical it's not like it ever thought about me. It's just a car. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yes.
Yeah. But
No, I'm on the same page. I like I said, I there are certain cars that I've had this moment with where it's like I can put my hand on the fender and I can just like, thank you. Like you've put in the work for me. I don't know. There's like a weird. Have you ever seen the movie Babe?
yeah,
That'll do pig.
with the pig. Yeah.
Yeah, there's like a little there's a little bit of the that'll do pig at the at those moments, but I don't feel connected to the nuts and bolts of the car. It's just like, we that machine and I have been through a lot together.
You know what might have
The
something to
car that
do
I
with
was
it?
most sentimental about was the
Go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
No,
What?
you go ahead. I have a theory what would make somebody sentimental with the car because I'm thinking of like the times where I've probably felt most sentimental with the car is is when I was wrenching on it a lot because you had this like connection with it because like you're the one putting it
Yep.
together and stuff like that. I could see you being sentimental with the work that went into like that specific chassis and that specific build. I could totally see that. But I think for most of my driving, I really haven't wrenched on cars that much or done anything really that extensive to a car where I would feel that sentimental value. But if I like kept it going for years and was like, gave it a new heart every once in a while and like, went through it a couple times over and like replaced everything, I could see maybe you having like sentimental value in that regard just because you spent so much time with it. But
Yeah.
typically, I think I'm driving the cars more than working on them.
I for sure am, and I agree that somebody who's dealt with the nuts and bolts way more than I have, I could totally see feeling sentimental value. The live chat, Zach Kohler says, "Let's be honest, guys, fits are boring." He quoted some guy named DJ.
That guy sounds like an asshole.
Ryan Christoph says he has an unreasonable sentiment towards his. That makes so that confirms the nuts and bolts theory because Ryan, you're in the nuts and bolts of that car like weekly.
Oh, his
Uh,
his CRX, like,
yeah.
yeah, okay.
Phil says he has sentimental value for his first car and the first car he bought, but the current car is a tool, meaning a tool for the job.
Yeah.
You're such a tool.
He hates that thing. He throws wrenches at it all the time.
Yeah. Okay, Taylor says car guys care about the cars. Drivers just see it as an appliance. Rarely the appliance builds sentimental value for drivers. We kind of just said that, right?
Yeah. So I think it kind of depends on how much you're wrenching on it. Like I wonder the person to ask this question to would probably I wonder if Eric Catil feels like sentimental value to his cars because he both it's absolutely a tool for the job, and when he's using the tool for the
Yeah.
job, he shows no mechanical sympathy and he's absolutely maximizing the tool, right? But then when the race is over, he's like lovingly putting it back together, right? So is there like a switch there that works for him, or like how does that work?
Yeah, I don't know because there's also to me there's a little bit of an aesthetic thing that goes into it. Like the cars that I've made my own have been more sentimental to me than um for example, I bought my first SCCA club racing car from a friend of mine, Jinx Jordan, and it already had a livery and a number and all that and I raced it for 1 year and I never touched it. I never made it my own. I never put a sticker on it. It was literally the livery I bought it with, the number I bought it with, and then I sold it that way. Versus the cars that I've spent time and hours and like effort wrapping and like making them look my way, the way that I want. I imagine that Eric, as much as he is a physical like performance and like nuts and bolts person, he's also an aesthetic person who wants to make the car look the like look and present and be like an entity in its own. I bet that's almost equal to it being sentimental that to versus winning.
I also wonder if there's like maybe like a weird cross between like the sentimental of like the emotional connection to the car, but then also like maybe there's like a sadness, like if the car dies a sudden death and you need to get like a new chassis, that maybe some of that sadness is not necessarily, oh no, this particular VIN number chassis. It might be, oh, all that sunk work into that thing that is now worthless and now I have to do it again. Right? Like there might be some like conflicting emotions there.
Yeah.
Because if you so like to Ross's point, I would I don't know if he's in the audience today. I'm recording. Can you scroll through and see if he's in the audience today?
He is not here right now.
Okay. I almost wonder if it was like, Ross, what if somebody just had a chassis of a fit and they swapped all the stuff over and they had it set up exactly like that other one and like and it just was in your garage one day. Would you still feel sentimental value to that other chassis? Right? Like you didn't have to touch anything. It's like the incident never happened. Right? It's like the thing was never damaged. Would it like would you still feel sentimental to it? Because it's just a VIN number, right?
Right. It's interesting. I mean, they're just glorified Legos at the end of the day. Are you committed to the brick, or is it the end product basically?
Could somebody
What?
put that in the into the Who Said What channel? Are you committed to the
Yeah.
brick? Uh,
Okay, the other great question we had was he is here. Phil asked, quick background. I went to SCCA TT at Road America in April of 2024, and the VQ motor in my 350Z finally gave up over 5 years. I had the goal to take it to TT Nationals in October. I achieved that goal with a lot of minor mechanical issues and found myself missing a handful of black flags in one session. First time I ever missed a black flag on a track, and I'm a bit embarrassed. With the season starting up soon, what's a good way to refamiliarize yourself with track awareness or prevent tunnel visioning?
so this one's kind of
It's a
tough.
good question.
It is a very good question. I think this is actually kind of a tough one to answer because
I
I
got it. I think
yeah, go ahead.
I struggle with this because I want to go too fast, too quick. I don't acknowledge when I have taken time to when I have to take time to back things down because my innate driving kicks in and I forget to like slow down a little bit. And this is bad at specifically new tracks. It's bad after a little bit of a break out of the car, and it's bad in like new event environments where I may or may not be more focused on my driving than the event change. And honestly, I think it's literally just forcing yourself to slow down for a short period of time. And that literally to me means an out lap and maybe the first two laps. And I don't have to change anything but just slow down. Like I don't drive the car on the 100% limit where my bandwidth is focused on the car. I'm so let me complete the thought. So you don't have to focus so hard in the critical moments of the weekend. You can build that like confidence back up without even thinking about it, and then you just start driving. And I confirmed that this weekend because we went out at Miami. We went out for like 30 minutes of parade laps before the first session. Because I'd never been to the track before, I went out for basically the whole time in a rental car. And what I focused on was pulling my eyes all the way through the corner to the exit of the corner and driving with as light of a grip on the wheel as possible and just kind of like my hands are literally kind of like palming the wheel instead of gripping and just like letting the car kind of carry itself to where it needed to be and just pick up the broad picture. I wanted to have like a full panoramic view of what was happening on this racetrack. And I didn't have to pay attention to flaggers. I didn't have to pay attention to much of all. But if I had just gone out in the first session with the job of going fast, luckily that wasn't the job. I would try to go fast before I picked up all that other stuff. So that's where I'm at. I feel like when it's important to remember, meaning early season or long time out of the car or new track or new build, remember to slow down just enough that you can pick up the basics and feel 1 to 2 laps more confident, then focus on the car first. That's what I think. What do you think?
So I mean, I kind of experienced feeling like at the limit of my bandwidth in the first session out on a new track in a super fast car this weekend, and it's just uncomfortable. And I agree 100% with your advice. And I didn't take that advice, but I should have. Just slow down for 2 laps, get your bearings, just focus on your vision being as wide as possible.
Yeah, drive like you're on the highway.
Yep. Focus on the fundamentals. Wide vision, light hands, relax, and then work up from there. And I think you'll take that bandwidth with you. And if you feel yourself getting limited on bandwidth, then you just have to like recommit into those like fundamental basics again. And eventually with the repetition throughout the weekend, you're going to have good bandwidth and you're going to feel comfortable.
Back in the chat says wide vision, light hands, yell at truckers. Drive like you're on the highway.
The Tomo way.
Yeah,
Sorry,
that's
sorry to all the truckers that
damn.
listen to this. Tom's just kidding. He's just kidding, everyone.
Totally kidding. But stay out of the left lane.
Oh no. Oh jeez.
It's an inside joke. Don't worry about it.
All right. We had an actual email that came in that I posted in the no mics question. Just cause
Really?
so we would actually read it. Yeah, I posted a picture of it. Um,
Okay.
so Kevin,
Let's end on this one.
yeah, so Kevin Kaler writes in. Uh, he says, "Get guys." I'm not entirely sure what that means, but he says, "I'm an old gearhead. Uh, I'm an old gearhead boomer that has dabbled in autocross with decent success and track days. I'm the guy who's always trying to build multiple project cars and yet never has one to drive. But that's changing this year. I bought an old 71 Datsun 240Z that was an SCCA ITS build from the 90s, and we're refreshing it to prepared autocross rules with the intent to do track days, and we'll see where it takes me. I want to put together a sim rig to practice on, but I'm not a computer guy. I can build the rig, but looking for insight on the most cost effective setup to get started. Figured this may be a good topic, as I'm sure many others have similar thoughts as they go down this rabbit hole. I just found your podcast, and I'm only on episode 6 or something, so forgive me if you've covered this, but I didn't see anything scanning show titles. Love the vibe on the show. Keep up the good work. So, Kevin, when you come across this episode 2 years from now, hopefully, you find the advice helpful. Do
That's wild.
you see the picture Zach posted? Zach, I do not appreciate
Yeah.
that picture.
An actual email.
Uh,
Okay, so what's the question? He's asking about building a sim rig, or he's asking about
he's
the
he's
seat time car?
he's asking where to start, like when it comes to like building a sim rig.
Oh, and a sim rig.
Yeah.
Oh, geez. Okay, you go first. I feel like you have more thoughts than I will.
So I think you have to establish what your budget will be, and then from there you can get like the low hanging fruit on the budget. I think like the sweet spot for having the sim rig feel like a car is probably around 3,000 $3,500. I think that's about the sweet spot. So you'll have to spend that much for the thing to feel like a car. Anything less than that, you can still be perfectly competitive in the sim racing world. But if you're using it as like a real world training tool to drive in real life, then you're going to need something that's sturdy. So a nice sturdy rig that Kevin said he would build. But depending on your level of fabrication, I would almost just say spend the $500 and just get a 80/20 Alumistrut rig. Probably rig metal is probably the best option, or Micro Center. There's a Micro Center near you, Kevin. So do some googling. They have decent rigs. It's like a Tony Kanon branded rig. Uh, they have those are Alumistrut rigs. They're generally pretty cheap as well, but that will be sturdy enough where it won't be flimsy. A rig that's flimsy in any capacity is going to completely ruin any kind of realism and any kind of accuracy that you'll have on it. So the first thing, the most important thing, is that the rig is sturdy. That's going to be the most important thing, and then the you have to decide if you're going to do VR or a monitor. Monitor is going to be a little bit trickier to set up, but that's fine. You can just reach out to me. I'll help you set it up. Um, but a VR, you'll feel more like you're in the car. But VR is not for everyone. You might feel a little motion sick. The screen is definitely easier to use and it's more reliable. Uh, but when it comes to like the pedal and the wheel and stuff like that, um, find like a bundle deal. Micro Center has some. Sometimes you can find some on like Facebook Marketplace or something like that. But the pedal should be a load cell pedal, and the wheel should be probably at this point a direct drive wheel because they've actually gotten pretty cheap. Sim Magic probably has the best deal on the direct drives, and with all those things combined, you should be good. If you buy just like a pre-built computer from I don't know, iBuyPower or something like that, that will be perfectly acceptable for sim racing. Or you could, I bet Micro Center sells pre-built computers as well. Uh, that would probably also be completely fine.
I feel unqualified to give any advice on this, but I started in 2019 when I got back into sim racing with a TV I had, a Logitech wheel that I had, and a $700 computer that DJ sent me and said this will run iRacing. And I feel like if all of what DJ said or any of it is overwhelming, eliminate that and just get started and focus on the fundamentals and then figure out if you like it and make sure that you like it, and then you can spend the more money on it. But if what he said sounds great, freaking do it, because his rig is way better than mine. Look
Honestly,
at mine. Mine
honestly,
literally does this.
Micro Centers has stepped up their game so much in like the last couple of years. You could probably just go to a Micro Center and like just do some shopping around, and literally with a shopping cart leave with a sim rig inside it. Like they're actually really
Absolutely.
legit. Yeah, it's super cool that like a brick and mortar store, you can just like go in and walk out with a sim rig. Also, if you do a monitor, please also buy a monitor stand. You don't want the monitor just sitting on something with its like normal like monitor stand. It's bouncing all around and doing all sorts of wild stuff. You can't get your FOV
Guys,
correctly. You can't do anything correct. Tom, show everyone your rig just so they can see how triggered I am.
literally everything DJ has said don't do, I have. My monitor is sitting unbolted to the wood desk
And it's
that is
flimsy.
rickety and wobbly. This wheel falls off. I'm sorry if
Yep.
you're listening audio wise, but
Yeah.
this wheel falls off
It's
this
bad.
all the time, so I have to push it back on.
Yep.
It's a Honda seat from 1997, and it's wood and steel that my dad and I bought from Home Depot.
The seat's fine. That's
So all that to say, what DJ said is absolutely 100% correct. But if the barrier of entry is just starting, freaking start, dude. Like just get something, get the game working, get the controls working, and like start to figure out what it feels like, because
I mean, the way I started was just
it doesn't have to be that serious.
yeah.
It will get that serious if you love it. If you love it,
True.
you know.
I mean, the way I started was just like my wheel was like clamped to my desk, and I was like, oh my God, I can feel myself becoming
Same.
better at driving. I love this. And then I just like went down the rabbit hole, right? And now my rig, if like you had
100%.
to, if you had to recreate my sim rig, it would probably cost around like $8,000, which is like really expensive. But if you think like I've used it, let's see, I started in 2016. So it's 9 years later. So it's $8,000 over the course of 9 years, and I use it almost every single day, and it has
Yep.
100% made me into the driver that I am today. So like if you think about the last decade of me driving, and I spent $8,000 to become like the best possible driver that I could possibly be for myself, I would spend that money again tomorrow, like in a heartbeat, like no questions asked. I would absolutely do that.
I agree. If you can afford it, literally the only barrier is financial, or maybe being a little like tech overwhelmed. If you can do what he said, do what he said, for sure.
And if you need help with the computer or the setting up of the thing to make it feel like a car, like you could just reach out to me. I'll be able to help you.
Yep.
So, Tom, what are you doing this weekend? I have a suggestion if you say nothing.
I currently don't have any plans this weekend, actually.
You're going to Charlotte.
Yeah. Charlotte
There's an autocross in Charlotte.
for an autocross?
Yep. What else
All
you
right,
doing?
we'll try it. Apparently that.
I haven't cleared this with Christine yet, but do you want to go hiking with us on Sunday?
Sure, I'll try.
Okay. Sounds like a weekend.
What do you mean, like she won't invite me? She'll just say, no, you can't come?
Well, I don't know. I brought it up on the podcast, which is probably like the worst thing ever to do. But I bet she would love to have Tom O'Gorman come with.
Yeah. You better invite me, Christine, or I'll be mad. We'll be fighting.
Is she in the chat?
No, she's not.
Okay.
Well, maybe. I'm scroll down. No, she's not here. But
Okay.
either way, yeah, I guess this weekend, I don't have a lot of plans.
Okay.
Maybe that. Is that where you're going? What are you driving? Peter?
I'm driving with Peter Schnorr. Yeah. Do we need to find you something? We can find you something.
We'll figure it out offline, and I'll find something to drive
Okay, cool.
if I'm gonna go.
Are you going?
Non-committal.
That totally means
Likely.
no. Likely. Okay.
Well, I mean, yeah, I guess like I don't know. I can't commit to you literally right here, right now on the podcast.
Okay. Well, that's what I was trying to make happen. But if it's not going to happen, then maybe we should just end
I
the
know.
show.
Well, it's not no, but it's a maybe. Maybe
Guys,
maybe Todd and I can drive together.
we know. Oh, Todd, are you going? Oh, he says I'll be there. Yeah. That'll be fun. Oh, he has a D Street car. I'm going to be in D Street. Oh my God. D Street rematch.
Yeah, how'd that go for you last time?
It didn't go very well, Tom.
What about the time before?
In SSC, that didn't go very well either.
Oh, I meant D Street. I'm kidding.
Oh,
Oh, that's
Todd
fun.
goes awkward.
That
I'm
way to
not
catch
bringing
up.
my car.
Oh, he's just going.
Yeah. You messaged him on the side and said, just please tell DJ that so I don't have to go against him. I know what's going on.
Dude, if I'm gonna go, I'm gonna find something like a street mod car. I'm gonna find like an F mod, something wild.
Okay, something wild.
Something to
Yeah,
get my blood
I
pumping.
guess D Street is pretty tame compared to other things, but so all right.
Not my first pick.
Well, that's what I'm doing this weekend. I'm going for an autocross and I'm going hiking on Sunday.
That's amazing. Very cool. I will likely see you.
Okay. Also, it's gonna be. I'm literally just gonna get home. I'm gonna work remote on Friday, and then we're just like racing down to Charlotte. So I'm getting home
Sure.
like Thursday at like 1 in the morning. So it's Friday 1 in the morning, and then I'm gonna work, and then I'm going. So I'm not even gonna get a chance to do
Living that.
laundry probably.
Ew.
Well, I have other clothes than what I brought to
I'm
to
kidding.
onboarding.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Should we end the show? I think I remembered what button it is.
Sure.
Okay. I don't know if you can hear it, so we'll just hope for the best.
Oh yeah. You're gonna hear it great this week, guys. There's no excuse for you to not nail this. I'm gonna wait for it to roll a little bit and love your hair.